Someone is preparing to come see you, but they cannot let everyone know about it yet. Not because the connection is fake, not because the feelings are weak, but because some soul connections grow strongest in silence before they fully appear in the light. And what's happening right now behind the scenes may change your life completely. Stay with me, because before this reunion happens physically, there are signs your soul has already started feeling their approach. Have you noticed your emotions becoming strangely intense lately? Moments of thinking about someone for no reason, sudden waves of nostalgia, dreams that feel unusually real, a feeling deep inside that something important is moving toward you. That is not random. Some connections reach your spirit before they ever reach your hands.
Your soulmate may already be planning to reconnect, communicate, or physically come closer to you, but the energy surrounding this connection still requires privacy, because not every connection survives outside noise. Sometimes the universe protects sacred bonds through silence first. Too much outside attention, opinions, jealousy, or interference can disturb a connection that is still emotionally forming. That is why this person may be moving quietly. They're thinking carefully, watching carefully, feeling everything deeply before taking action. And the strange part is, your soul already senses them. You may suddenly feel emotionally restless at night. You may feel pulled towards certain memories, songs, or places connected to love. You may even feel emotional shifts you cannot logically explain. Spiritual connections often announce themselves energetically before physical movement happens.
And while the outside world sees silence, something powerful is quietly unfolding underneath. Your soulmate may also be hiding their feelings because the connection feels too important to expose too early. Some people protect what they value most before revealing it fully. If you feel deep down that someone important is secretly finding their way back to you, comment "I feel it" below and subscribe for more soulmate and spiritual awakening messages. The truth is, not every love story begins loudly. Some of the deepest soul connections arrive quietly, secretly, and unexpectedly. And while nobody else understands what is happening yet, your spirit already knows someone important is getting closer and closer to you every single day. A soulmate connection often begins silently before physical reunion because deep emotional and spiritual bonds usually develop internally before they fully appear externally. Many people expect meaningful relationships to begin with dramatic events or immediate communication, but psychology and spiritual belief both suggest that powerful connections often start with subtle emotional awareness long before two people reconnect in real life. The mind, emotions, and intuition may begin sensing someone's presence even before direct contact happens again. People experiencing a soulmate connection often notice unexplained emotional shifts. Thoughts about a certain person may suddenly become stronger without any obvious reason. Memories may return repeatedly. Dreams may feel emotionally intense, or there may be a strange feeling that someone important is getting closer emotionally. These experiences happen because emotionally significant bonds leave deep impressions on the subconscious mind. Even when physical distance exists, emotional energy connected to unresolved attachment can remain active internally. Psychology explains that emotionally important relationships create lasting neural and emotional patterns. The brain continues associating certain emotions, memories, and feelings with that person long after separation or silence. As a result, the connection may quietly reactivate emotionally before physical reunion actually occurs. Small reminders suddenly feel meaningful, and emotional intuition becomes stronger because the mind is already emotionally preparing for possible reconnection. Spiritually, soulmate connections are often described as bonds that operate beyond ordinary timing and communication. Many believe souls recognize each other energetically before physical circumstances fully align. This is why people sometimes feel emotionally drawn towards someone unexpectedly or sense emotional closeness despite physical absence. Silence also plays an important role in the beginning stages of deep connections. Before reunion happens openly, both people may still be processing emotions privately, healing internally, or gathering emotional courage. The connection grows quietly beneath the surface before becoming visible externally. The most powerful emotional bonds rarely begin with certainty or loud announcements. They often begin as quiet emotional awareness, unexplained inner knowing, and a deep feeling that someone significant is slowly moving closer into your life again. Spiritual bonds often create emotional signs before a meeting happens because deep emotional and energetic connections tend to affect the mind and emotions before physical contact occurs. Many people describe feeling sudden emotional shifts, unusual dreams, strong intuition, or an unexplained sense that someone important is approaching their life. Psychology and spiritual belief both suggest that emotionally meaningful connections can begin influencing thoughts and feelings long before an actual reunion or encounter takes place. One common sign is increased emotional sensitivity. A person may suddenly feel more emotional than usual without understanding why. Certain memories, songs, places, or thoughts begin triggering strong emotional reactions. This happens because the subconscious mind often responds to emotionally significant connections before the conscious mind fully understands what is occurring. Deep attachment can quietly reactivate emotional patterns connected to love, longing, or recognition. Dreams are another powerful emotional sign. Many people experiencing strong spiritual connections report vivid dreams involving someone they feel drawn toward emotionally. These dreams often feel unusually real or emotionally intense because the subconscious mind processes emotional energy symbolically during sleep. Even if no communication exists physically, the emotional bond may still feel psychologically active internally. Psychology also explains that emotionally important people remain deeply stored within memory and emotional processing systems. When the mind begins emotionally focusing on someone again, intuition and emotional awareness often become stronger. A person may suddenly think about someone repeatedly, feel emotionally restless, or sense change approaching without logical explanation. Spiritually, many believe soulmate or deep soul connections operate beyond ordinary physical communication. Emotional energy connected to these bonds is believed to create inner awareness before external movement happens. This is why people sometimes describe feeling someone coming back into their life before actual contact occurs. These emotional signs often appear quietly and unexpectedly. The person may not fully understand why emotions are shifting or why someone keeps appearing in their thoughts, but internally there is a growing sense that something emotionally important is slowly moving closer toward them again. Some connections must remain private to protect their energy because emotionally significant relationships are often sensitive during their early stages. Psychology explains that outside opinions, pressure, jealousy, criticism, or constant attention can influence emotions and create stress inside a connection that is still emotionally developing. When two people share a deep emotional or spiritual bond, privacy can create a sense of emotional safety that allows the relationship to grow naturally without outside interference. Many people feel an instinct to keep meaningful connections quiet at first because emotionally important relationships feel vulnerable before trust becomes fully stable. The soulmate type connection often carries intense emotions, uncertainty, hope, and emotional exposure. Sharing every detail too early with others can sometimes create confusion or emotional pressure that weakens the natural emotional flow between two people. Instead of focusing on the connection itself, the individuals may become distracted by outside opinions or expectations. Psychology also shows that external negativity can affect emotional confidence. If others criticize, doubt, or misunderstand the relationship, both people may begin overthinking their emotions unnecessarily. This can create fear, insecurity, or emotional hesitation. Keeping the connection private temporarily allows both individuals to process feelings honestly without outside influence controlling their emotional decisions. Spiritually, many people believe important connections carry delicate emotional energy during the beginning stages. Privacy is often viewed as protection rather than secrecy. Silence creates emotional space for the bond to strengthen internally before becoming visible publicly. Some relationships grow best when they are nurtured quietly rather than exposed too early to outside attention. Private connections also allow emotional authenticity. Without pressure from social expectations, both people can understand their emotions more clearly and naturally. They can focus on trust, communication, emotional healing, and genuine connection instead of performing the relationship for others. Not every meaningful relationship is meant to be understood immediately by the outside world. Some of the deepest emotional bonds develop strongest in silence, where emotional energy remains protected, intentions stay pure, and the connection has time to grow without distraction or interference from people who may never fully understand its depth. Your soulmate may already be thinking about reaching out to you, because emotionally significant connections often remain active in the mind long before physical communication happens. Psychology explains that people continue mentally revisiting individuals who created strong emotional impact in their lives. Even after silence, distance, or separation, emotionally important memories and feelings remain deeply stored in the subconscious mind. Over time, unresolved emotions, longing, curiosity, or emotional attachment can slowly pull someone back into thoughts about reconnecting. A person who shares a deep emotional bond with someone often experiences moments where memories suddenly return with unusual intensity. Small reminders, dreams, familiar places, songs, or emotional experiences may trigger thoughts about reaching out again. The mind naturally returns to emotionally meaningful connections because emotionally powerful relationships leave lasting psychological impressions. Even when someone tries to stay distracted or emotionally distant, hidden feelings often continue existing beneath the surface. Psychology also shows that emotional attachment creates unfinished emotional patterns. When a relationship carries deep emotional energy, the brain often seeks emotional closure, reconnection, or understanding. This is why people unexpectedly think about contacting someone long after communication ended. The emotional bond quietly remains active internally, influencing thoughts and emotional behavior over time. Spiritually, many people believe soulmate connections create energetic awareness between two individuals. Some describe feeling emotionally pulled toward someone without fully understanding why. They may suddenly feel curious about the person, emotionally nostalgic, or internally guided toward reconnecting. These feelings often appear quietly before actual communication happens. Fear and timing also play important roles. Someone may deeply want to reach out but still feel emotionally cautious. They may be processing emotions privately, healing from past pain, or waiting until they feel emotionally ready. This is why soulmate connections often move slowly and quietly before direct action occurs. The connection may already be growing internally inside their thoughts even if no words have been spoken yet. Sometimes emotional reconnection begins long before the first message, phone call, or meeting, because emotionally significant bonds continue living inside the mind and heart even during silence. Silence does not always mean distance, because people often become quiet when they are emotionally processing something important internally. Psychology explains that deep emotional connections can create intense thoughts, fears, hopes, and inner conflict. Instead of immediately expressing everything outwardly, many people withdraw temporarily to understand their emotions, gain clarity, or emotionally prepare themselves for what they truly want. During this period, silence may look like emotional separation from the outside, but internally the connection can still remain very active. A person connected deeply to someone may become quiet because the emotions feel overwhelming. They may think constantly about the relationship while saying very little outwardly. This happens because emotionally significant bonds often create vulnerability, and vulnerability can make people cautious. Instead of rushing toward communication, they may choose silence while they process fears of rejection, timing, emotional readiness, or life circumstances. Psychology also shows that emotionally attached people often retreat mentally when emotions become intense. The mind tries to regain emotional balance before taking action. During silence, the person may still replay conversations, revisit memories, imagine future possibilities, or think about reconnecting, even though outward communication remains absent. Emotional preparation frequently happens internally long before external movement becomes visible. Spiritually, many believe silence is part of the preparation stage in soulmate connections. Deep bonds often require emotional growth, healing, or inner transformation before reunion can happen in a healthy way. During this quiet period, both people may unknowingly be preparing emotionally for a stronger connection later. What feels like separation externally may actually be emotional alignment happening slowly underneath the surface. Silence can also protect emotions while someone gathers courage. A person may care deeply but fear saying the wrong thing or exposing feelings too early. Instead of moving impulsively, they remain quiet while emotionally organizing what they truly feel. Not every quiet moment means emotional absence. Sometimes silence is filled with thoughts, emotions, memories, and preparation happening privately. The connection may still be growing internally, even when nothing appears to be happening outwardly, because emotionally important bonds often move quietly before they fully reveal themselves. The universe moves important connections quietly, not loudly, because deeply meaningful relationships often develop through subtle emotional shifts rather than dramatic external signs. Many spiritual beliefs suggest that soulmate connections, emotional reunions, and life-changing relationships unfold gradually behind the scenes before they become visible in the physical world. Instead of arriving with immediate certainty or public attention, these bonds often grow silently through emotional preparation, intuition, timing, and internal transformation. Psychology also supports the idea that emotionally significant relationships develop internally before they fully appear externally. Strong emotional connections affect thoughts, memories, emotions, and subconscious patterns long before visible action happens. A person may begin thinking about someone unexpectedly, feel emotionally drawn toward them, or experience sudden emotional awareness without understanding why. These quiet inner movements often happen before communication or a union takes place. Important connections tend to move quietly because emotional growth requires space. Loud outside attention, pressure, or constant interference can disrupt emotional clarity. When two people are emotionally significant to each other, they often need time to process fears, heal past wounds, and emotionally prepare themselves before the relationship can fully unfold. Silence allows emotional alignment to happen naturally without forcing outcomes too quickly. Spiritually, many believe the universe protects sacred connections during their early stages. Not every meaningful bond is meant to be publicly understood immediately. Some relationships strengthen best in private emotional spaces where trust, emotional maturity, and inner understanding can grow quietly first. This is why soulmate-type connections often feel deeply personal and emotionally intense long before anyone else notices what is happening. The quiet movement of important connections also creates emotional intuition. People sometimes sense that something meaningful is approaching even when there is no visible proof yet. They may feel emotionally restless, drawn towards certain thoughts, or unusually connected to memories and emotions linked to a specific person. The most life-changing emotional bonds often begin without noise or public recognition. They grow silently inside emotions, thoughts, intuition, and spiritual awareness until the timing becomes right for the connection to fully appear outwardly in a way that can no longer remain hidden. Emotional intuition can sense someone approaching before they physically arrive because the human mind and emotions often respond to emotionally significant connections before direct contact happens. Psychology explains that strong emotional bonds leave deep impressions on the subconscious mind. When someone important is emotionally connected to us, the brain may begin reacting to subtle emotional patterns, memories, or expectations long before an actual meeting or communication occurs. This creates a feeling that something emotionally meaningful is moving closer, even when there is no logical evidence yet. Many people experience sudden emotional shifts before reconnecting with someone important. They may start thinking about the person constantly, feel emotionally restless, or sense unusual emotional intensity without understanding the reason. Certain memories, dreams, songs, or familiar feelings may begin appearing repeatedly. These experiences often happen because the subconscious mind is emotionally activated by unresolved attachment, anticipation, or emotional recognition connected to that person. Psychology also shows that emotionally significant people remain deeply connected to emotional memory systems in the brain. When the mind begins emotionally revisiting those memories, intuition often feels stronger. A person may suddenly feel pulled towards certain thoughts or emotions because the brain is unconsciously preparing for emotional reconnection. This internal preparation can feel like sensing someone's arrival before physical movement actually happens. Spiritually, many believe soulmate or deep soul connections operate through energetic awareness beyond ordinary communication. Emotional intuition is often described as a soul-recognizing movement before the physical world fully reflects it. This is why some people feel emotionally connected to someone during periods of silence or distance. The emotional bond continues existing internally even without direct interaction. Emotional intuition also becomes stronger when a connection carries deep emotional impact. The mind becomes more sensitive to anything associated with that person because emotionally they already occupy important space internally. Small emotional signals suddenly feel amplified and meaningful. Sometimes the heart notices emotional movement before the eyes can see it. The feeling that someone important is approaching often begins quietly through intuition, emotional sensitivity, and inner awareness long before physical reunion finally takes place. Not every sacred connection is meant to be publicly understood immediately, because deeply meaningful relationships often carry emotional depth that others cannot fully see or understand from the outside. Psychology explains that emotionally powerful bonds develop through private experiences, emotional timing, vulnerability, and inner transformation. Since other people do not experience the emotional intensity directly, they may misunderstand, judge, or question the connection before it has fully formed. For this reason, some relationships naturally remain quiet or private during their early stages. A sacred connection often feels deeply personal to the people experiencing it. The emotions involved may be intense, confusing, healing, or life-changing, making the bond difficult to explain logically. Even the individuals themselves may still be trying to understand what they feel internally. Sharing the connection too early with the outside world can create pressure, doubt, or emotional interference before emotional clarity and trust become stable. Psychology also shows that outside opinions strongly affect emotions and decision-making. When people constantly hear judgment, criticism, or skepticism about a meaningful relationship, they may begin doubting their own emotional instincts. This can create unnecessary fear, confusion, or emotional distance. Keeping the connection private temporarily protects emotional authenticity and allows the bond to develop naturally without outside influence shaping it. Spiritually, many believe sacred connections carry sensitive emotional energy during their beginning stages. Silence and privacy are often viewed as forms of protection rather than secrecy. Some relationships need emotional space to grow stronger before they are exposed publicly. Not everyone is capable of understanding the emotional or spiritual depth behind certain bonds, especially if they view relationships only from a surface level. Private growth also allows both people to focus on healing, trust, communication, and emotional alignment without distraction. The connection becomes rooted in genuine emotional understanding instead of external validation. Some of the deepest relationships unfold quietly because their purpose is emotional transformation rather than public approval. Their meaning becomes clear over time through emotional experience, not through immediate explanation or outside recognition. The truth is, some of the most powerful soul connections do not arrive loudly. They move quietly through intuition, silence, emotional preparation, and unseen spiritual movement long before the physical reunion finally happens. What feels like distance may actually be emotional alignment taking place behind the scenes. What looks like silence may be someone gathering courage, healing internally, or preparing to step closer to you at the right moment. Your soulmate may already be thinking about you, feeling pulled toward you, or emotionally moving closer without anyone else knowing yet. And while the outside world sees nothing unusual, your spirit continues sensing that something important is changing underneath the surface. The dreams, emotional shifts, sudden memories, and deep inner knowing are often signs that the connection is already active before words are spoken openly. Not every sacred bond is meant to be explained immediately. Some relationships are protected in silence until the timing is strong enough to handle the light. Because truly meaningful connections are not built through noise, attention, or public approval. They are built through emotional truth, spiritual alignment, and quiet transformation. And sometimes, before your soulmate finally appears in front of you, your soul already recognizes that they are on their way.